Throughout Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people, the German state has been at the forefront of facilitating some of the gravest crimes of our age. It's justified them on the grounds of its own genocidal past, and the atmosphere in Germany has been suffocating, with opponents of the genocide facing vilification and silencing. That's included Jewish Germans who've spoken out, like the Israel-born architect and academic E.L. Weizmann, who said there was a certain irony in being lectured on how to be properly Jewish by the children and grandchildren of the perpetrators who murdered our families and who now dare to tell us that we are anti-Semitic. I'm about to talk to two German signatories to this letter about German complicity and why so few have spoken out and if that's going to change. But first, for context, despite polling showing that, and this is despite the consensus of the political elite, only a small minority of Germans actually support arming Israel's genocidal onslaught. But nonetheless, public dissent has been relatively small. That's now changed. A public letter signed by German academics, intellectuals, civil servants, as well as international public figures, has been sent to the German federal government. Well over 1,000, declaring with utmost horror we see the unfolding genocide committed by Israel against the Palestinian people. It expresses outrage at the German government's normalisation for the blatant disregard for life, as well as its active participation in the killing and dehumanisation of Palestinians, with political, military and legal support to Israel. It details Israel's atrocities and the response from the international legal system and UN, and it calls for a full arms embargo, the cancelling of economic relationships, and ending Germany's complicit in atrocity crimes committed by Israel in Palestine. I speak now to Hannah El-Taher, an academic, and Melanie Schweizer, a lawyer. Now, let's just talk about the letter. How did the letter come around? We'll start with you, Hannah.
The letter came around predominantly from a sense of frustration and anger also, and pain, that there are no voices out of Germany that are audible outside and opposing the politics of the German government. So one thing was to really signal clearly that there are people opposing the German support of the annihilation and genocide of the Palestinian people, and to make this visible. And so the initiators are from Germany, but the idea was to also do this together with international colleagues, to do it in English, to basically force a discussion that the German government somehow keeps hiding away. When things are just happening in German, it's easy to just shut people down. But when you get internationals to be able to follow this discussion, the idea was to make this a bit bigger and to put pressure and to really also show that it is a normal reaction to be angry at your own government using your tax money to finance a genocide.
I mean, Melanie, you're a civil servant. You're there, I suppose, as part of the German state, I suppose. I mean, tell me about the kind of, I guess, what many civil servants there to facilitate what the state demands and expects, but what civil servants have been talking about in terms of their duties and responsibilities, for example, vis-a-vis the German constitution.
Yeah, so as a civil servant, of course, I have loyalty duties, but my loyalty duties go to the German constitution. And the German constitution in Article 25 says that that international law is higher than actually the German constitution. And for me personally, and I think this is clear, you know, when there are human rights at stake and violations, I mean, crimes against humanity, there's a line, you know. My loyalty is not towards a political party, but it's towards our constitution, and this is what I will always uphold. And I think we had, especially in Germany, we had some really important events, and speaking of and horrific ones, I mean the Holocaust, and then we also have the experience with the division of Germany and the wall. And we have I'm a lawyer, you know, I mean I studied law in university and also politics, but we learned that there are cases like the wall shooting cases where this is higher than any other duty, and where you're not following any instructions. And this for me is a case like that. I will not follow. I mean, in my, you know, the government is a big organization, and there are many ministries, and there there's a lot of stuff, and there are a lot of other bureaus and part organizations, but in any case, I'm not working directly with it. So there's also no way to channel any dissent, and I have used that wherever I can. I have talked to my supervisor, I've talked to my boss, I have talked to state secretaries, that I'm completely shattered about what is happening. You know, I feel like I'm living in a horror movie and a never-ending Black Mirror episode, and this reality is incomprehensible for me. And I think that the German government especially has a duty to uphold the constitution and international law, and not fight it.
I'm glad you mentioned Black Mirror there. I've often thought that myself. I have to say that this feels like a particularly nightmarish, just Black Mirror episode. In terms of, before I ask about context, I mean, can you just mention some of the names, like the sorts of names? I mean, it's not as in the kind of the occupations, positions that the signatories have. So actually, yeah, Hannah, do you want to describe the sorts of, civil servants, academics, the sorts of walks of life who've signed the letter?
Yeah, so I think it's civil servants, including diplomats, it's academics, researchers, it's doctors as well. So I think that's also an important thing to mention: medical workers, cultural workers, authors. So it's really a whole wide range of people, which was also what we wanted to reflect, that this isn't just a niche issue. It's actually a lot of people who are opposing the German government's politics, current and past.
I want to ask you about the atmosphere in Germany. I mean, lots of obviously countries have faced those who speak out and use their platform to speak out against the genocide have been vilified, silenced, sacked, all the rest of it. But Germany is a particularly acute place in the Western world. There's no question about that. So I'm just interested in terms of the atmosphere and the lack of dissent, because we have mass mobilizations in other countries, even though they're vilified in Britain, for example. I mean, talk through the lack of dissent and that context of the atmosphere that exists. Melanie, do you want to start with that?
Yeah. So in my opinion, it's a herring silence. It's a climate of fear and self-censorship. This is a complete taboo issue where no one is really talking about. And when you raise this, especially in big groups, there will be complete silence. People will just be shocked that you actually raised this issue now, and that you are talking about this, and that you are saying, everyone is so alarmed that they will only listen to the words that you're saying and pretty much see if they have to leave. And this is also how find the people. So there is a development of secrecy, that you have to talk in different rooms, that you have to find different channels and be very careful of what you're saying in front of whom. And I have had colleagues whose WhatsApp status has been photographed and was sent to the person, to like the administration of the ministry, and they had phone calls saying that it's all covered by the freedom of speech, but they would advise them to not do it. So on what legal ground? It's covered. They say that by the freedom of speech, but they still tell them to not do it. And that's just, I think, so very telling of where we are at. We are, and with all the legislation and the things going on inside Germany, the political stuff, and now we just had this resolution from the parliament that is all going into one direction of silencing and really making it impossible for people to talk about the crimes that we are seeing and to criticize what is going on, which is insane.
Hannah, what do you think about the kind of atmosphere, the pressures people are under, and that lack of dissent?
I mean, to put it shortly, I think you can summarize the situation and atmosphere in Germany as silence and silencing, apathy, cowardice, and self-censorship. And I think, especially in universities, if you go to study and then work in a university, if you look at the students, there is a form of desire for learning, and for learning also critical thinking. And this is basically, like, as academics, and a lot of academics have co-written and signed this paper, it should be our job to teach critical thinking. It should be our job to speak truth to power. And what we see in reality is that what is enshrined in the Constitution, which is the freedom of teaching and research, is completely oppressed. And students are scared. I would say there is mobilization. So the university is at the same time being a place of silence and silencing, but also the biggest protests have been coming out of universities in Germany. So it has both of these aspects. And I would like to add that this form of silencing and fear and sort of wanting to cooperate with power is not new. It's just a bit more visible now. And it does have especially Palestinian especially Palestinian scholars have been marginalized, silenced, and criminalized in Germany for decades. This isn't a new thing. And now we see people talk about it a bit more. We see it maybe that internationally it's gaining more traction and knowledge. But the really horrific part about that people are interested now to talk to Palestinians and to Palestinian scholars, writers, researchers, because there are thousands of dead. So it's like that cannot be the price for talking.
And if I may,
yeah, go for it.
I think it's just, this is a complete failure of all kind of institutions and systems. So the media is not doing their job. There's no critical reporting. The human rights institutions are not doing their human rights reporting really here in Germany. They are not. I mean, now, after 1 year, and I don't know, the official number is more than 50,000 dead people, while the rate of the age rate most killed is 5 to 9 children. Now you can hear some voices, but for example, this letter they refused to sign. So no German human rights organization wanted to sign this. And all what we are calling for is the respect for international law. This is what international law says and nothing more. And they refused to sign. And this goes beyond, like just some development. This is, I don't know. I mean, I think now to me, honestly, it makes sense that we had this history, because I can see that people do not say anything. There's a complete apathy. There's a lack of empathy. They are scared to lose a privilege, which might be a job or, someone greeting them. Whereas other people, like Hannah was saying, the students, the people who don't have a fixed residency or something like that, they're risking everything. And in some cases, really everything. I mean, it can go down to their life. But the others, they're not willing to not even risk a job.
I mean, you mentioned the history, which looms large over this, and I'll put to you what the German state, of course, says, which is within living memory. There was the Shoah, the genocide, of not just the Jewish people, obviously 6 million killed in the Shoah, but because of that, the reason of state of Germany is to protect Israel. When you hear that argument, I mean, that's the basic summary of that argument. Germany's genocidal past. What do you use to justify its position today? What do you say in response to that? Because that's what you get thrown at you. Melanie, do you want to start respond to that?
That we have learned absolutely nothing from our German history. That what we should have learned is that no one means never again means never again for everyone, and that human rights is what, and the upholding them and fighting for that and equal rights for everyone is what we should have learned from our history, and not replace Jewish people with Muslims and go after them now, as we're seeing every day on the streets. And with every media report, I've been out there on the demonstrations from the first week. I have talked to the main German media outlets and have made interviews, but this was never shown because they don't want to show to the German public that German people are also on these streets and that they are shattered by what is happening, I was crying in front of cameras and they wouldn't show that because they want to show Arabs to, basically, have their narrative, just been supported, that this is everything against Israel, it's Israel haters, Jews haters, which is absolutely not the case. On so many demonstrations, they were calling for Jews and Muslims and Christians to live together. Come on, I mean, seriously, this is ridiculous that we even have to talk about that. Obviously, this is about the complete annihilation of a people and robbing them of every right to live, to dignity, to everything else. And it hasn't also started on the 7th of October. It's been going on for decades, and no one wanted to know anything about it. Germans constantly go on work trips and stuff to the occupied West Bank and to the occupied Gaza Strip, and they see what's happening there. You're at gunpoint every meter you walk, and there are over 500 checkpoints. There's an illegal wall. Like, all these things have been happening for so long, and the international community, and especially Germany, is just ignoring it. And when this is absolutely not the lesson that we should have learned from the Holocaust and from the horrible atrocities that our grandparents have been doing in this country. And maybe this is a problem, maybe we never really denazified. Maybe so many still Nazis are within our society, and they just kept on having positions like this Miss Stark from the parliament, who is a granddaughter of this finance minister. How is this even possible?
I mean, Hannah, on that, maybe there's genocidal past, of course, of the 1930s and 1940s, and there's also before that, isn't there? I mean, Namibia publicly slapped Germany down for its position, given Namibia is a victim of genocide at the hands of the German state. So, I mean, there's a genocidal thread there. I mean, it's not unique to Germany. The British Empire has also committed genocide. But do you think that's the point? Is that actually Germany says this is confronting its own past, but it's actually just replicating its past in a different form?
Yeah, and it's not.
Sorry,
Hannah, I didn't want.
Go, Hannah.
I think that's a fake discussion. Like, first of all, Germany and other European states have a colonial, imperial, and genocidal past, and already Germany, and it's not even Namibia that's the victim of this. It's the Ovaherero Nama people who have their own conflicts with Namibia, and that's a whole other issue where we see that states can cooperate, like the German state and the Namibian state are doing all sorts of cooperations and signing agreements, but they're leaving out the people. I think then we have to be very clear. Dehumanization is dehumanization. It doesn't work to do a divide and conquer and to say that we're replacing one thing by the other. Once you have accepted that some humans are less human than others, then you have a problem. And we see this, and we see the continuation of racist, colonial, anti-Jewish racist, anti-Muslim racist structures and actions throughout history and beyond Germany. We're talking about Germany because we are employed by German institutions, and that's where we can take influence. Like, that's also something that gets thrown, like, why are you talking about Germany? Well, because I'm employed by a German institution. So that's why I'm talking about Germany. Where I employed by a US American institution, that's where I would be talking. We need to be talking towards the contexts that we may even if marginally influenced, even if it's just to say and show other people, hey, there is something happening, and people that are not okay with what is happening. And I think we really need to see also that racism will eventually hit everyone at some point, and that the whole discussion that we're having now isn't about keeping Jewish people safe. If it was about keeping Jewish people safe, then the German police wouldn't be beating up Jewish people. This isn't a situation of identity politics. This is a situation of power and of who is representing a position of power. So the German state has decided what they want their reason of state to be, and what kind of Jews they find acceptable and what kind of Jews they don't find acceptable. And that's the same for Muslims and Palestinians and any other kind of minority. So this is a huge mistake. Also, this debate is really, I think we should avoid it. This isn't about trading off one group against the other. This is about the simple, if one can put it simply, you have accepted as a state that some humans are not human. Once you have accepted that principle,
Yeah.
then the action go to where we are now. And that's why people are so not moving, because what they are seeing is not human beings that are being killed, because we have allowed this society to accept that some people aren't humans.
Yeah.
And that's the core of the issue. Yeah. And that's the
dehumanization is the precondition of every genocide. I mean, that's the basis.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm saying it sounds pretty simple, but how it's playing out is how it's playing out. Exactly. I mean, in the end, it's about power. It's about a liberal idea of who is a human and who is not a human, and we are not considered humans in this discourse.
I mean, a couple of other things on that. Despite that, I mean, you're right, and the massive dehumanization which underpins this abomination, and it is one of the great crimes of our age, utter depravity. But according to the latest poll, 19% of Germans support Israel militarily. So actually, it is the issue really that public opinion is that just not, it's passive, but it's there. But there's a climate of fear and so on. Is your hope that this letter could help break, in terms of the floodgates? Because if you've only got actually a large majority of the German people don't actually support the Israeli state committing its genocide. They're not speaking out in the way they should be. What do you think, Melanie? Do you think this will make people speak out, given actually the issue isn't convincing people per se, is it? It's not saying we shouldn't arm Israel, because the polling says they already agree with that.
No, I'm not up for convincing people. I mean, I really do have that hope, to stick out our heads, to show face, to show my name, and to tell people that we need to have this discussion. I'm not in an illusion that this will change anything about the government's position. They will do whatever they deem, serving their geopolitical interests. And we know that this has nothing to do with humans and human life and the value of human lives. But for us as people, for me, I have to look myself into the face every day in the mirror, and I cannot, just let this happen and watch and crumble inside. As so many times I've been saying, I feel like my soul is breaking away. I feel actually like some parts of my soul are dying while I live through this. And I want people to see that we are talking about this, and that we are here, and that we are civil servants, we are doctors, we are from all ranges of society. And if they want to come and hunt us down, then they should come. And that's fine. I'm up for it. I just I need from my conscience that I have tried everything, and that I have shown people also that it's worth it to speak up for humans and for people who are suffering.
And I suppose lastly, and Hannah, you might want to add to that as well, but just linked to that, and it's linked to what you both said actually, or alluded to earlier, is that, do you think part of this is about accountability, in that nobody can be allowed to say that they did not know? That German civil society people have spoken out. They've made it clear that this utter horror, this atrocity, this genocide has been committed with the total facilitation and complicity of the German state. That's about, in terms of accountability and justice for the future. I know we need to try and stop this with everything we have now, but there is a question of accountability. Is this drawing as a marker that you spoke out and no one can say they didn't know? What do you think, Hannah?
I mean, I don't think. Yeah, I'm not sure that I would frame it that way. I think it is important to speak out when you can, while you can. This whole country, this isn't just about Palestine. This is really it is really about claiming and speaking against injustice as long as you can. It's not about me personally. I'm not being bombarded. But we do need the support and the solidarity of other people to speak up with us. And I think, yeah, accountability is a thing. And of course, everybody knows this is not a secret. We have reports, we have numbers, we have testimonies, we have images. All of the things are there. And I think what we really have to see, no amount of pictures and numbers and reports will make people move. What might make people move is if you show them that it's possible. I think that's important. And another one is that really, in the end, the being hopeless is not an option. Giving up like we can already see that Gaza is on the news list, that there are other issues that are more important, that this will just become another unfortunate war zone with thousands of people being killed every day. And I think we need to just hold people accountable. This isn't a nature catastrophe that's happening. This isn't just some flood that's happening. This is a human-made genocide, annihilation, that if people looked a little bit beyond their own tiny thing, they would understand that this affects all of us. And I come back to dehumanization. When you accept that some people have been divided out, at some point it will come back to bite you. You have given up part of your own humanity. And I want German people and anybody else who's keeping quiet to know you are not only dehumanizing someone else, by doing that, you are voluntarily giving up your own humanity. And why would you want to do that?
Very powerfully put. And it is the silent throughout history. The great horrors of our past are always made possible by those who remain silent. It's not just those who are active. I mean, people who are actively supporting this now, it's so deranged. It's the silence, the people who know this is a great evil, or they know this is wrong, and they won't speak out.
And they won't speak out. Like, honestly, this fear is fake fear. It is fake fear, and the people are hiding because they're lazy. I'm sorry, but what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, honestly, like in the universities, they're like, oh yeah, you can lose your job. Yeah, sure. But are they able, like, where are the rest of the people? They can't fire every single civil servant, doctor, academic, professor, and cultural curator in a museum at the same time. So it's this whole idea of just saving yourself and sacrificing other people is just also really bizarre and wrong to me. And yeah, I think accountability, and nobody can say that they didn't know this is happening. Everybody knows, they just don't care.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to come back just to what we are saying. We're not calling for crazy things. We are calling for the government to abide to the law, and that this is a reason to be afraid of or to self-censor. It doesn't enter my mind, really. It just doesn't. And apart, and of course, all of this will be recorded. No one will be able. I mean, we have all seen the speeches from these people all the time, gaslighting us, the media and the politicians in Germany, but in the States, this is, anyways. And I don't think we are making this because of that, but also, what is coming after? Like, after we have disrespected every rule that we have made over the course of the last couple of decades, then what comes after? Then we will see drones here and bombs next. What is next? And I personally, if you don't care about the people in Palestine, if you need to be I don't know, Arab or Muslim to understand that this is a human complete insanity, what is going on. It's not a disaster, and it's not a catastrophe. It's a deliberate slaughter of people who are incarcerated. They are in jails, open. This is the biggest open air prison in the world. And if you are not by that, but then you're not, I mean, if you're not even worried about what is coming in the future for us, that all these weapons that are being tested there, that all these rules that have been bended, that they will be our reality for the next couple of decades, I mean, where are we going from here?
But even
Amen.
that already,
Well,
yeah. Sorry, may I?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, sure.
No, I really think we need to make the point, this can't only be a problem because it might come back to Europe. This is a problem because it's a problem. And also, yeah, I do agree. It's absolutely crazy and bizarre that a letter that is really extremely tame and liberal, like, in the end, all that we're doing is saying, please, Germany, abide by your own constitution and by the international treaties to which you are a signatory. That's the most liberal, most tame, most not radical thing. If that is already considered radical, then I would put the question back to other people. What does that tell me about the current situation when asking something so unthreatening, so simple, so liberal, so really not radical at all is already perceived as threatening? What does that tell me about the state of the rule of law in Germany if already asking Germany to abide by its own laws is considered a threat? That really tells me that we need to re-question the whole idea of how democratic this country is.
Yeah, we have to.
Amen. Look, what this is such an important letter. It's a document which will be remembered, I think, for generations to come. But it's a call for action. It's a call for action now, that people who refuse to speak out when their governments are complicit in genocide need to do something. They need to wake up, because you will never be able to wash that stain away. Please share this video. The letter is so important, and we need to get, this example set. What's happening in Germany is obviously a more difficult atmosphere, but that's not an excuse. I think we've covered that. I think that's been made very, very, very well. But it's so important that people use their collective power to put pressure on their governments to stop them facilitating one of the worst horrors of our time. So please share this video, press like and subscribe, because it's good for the algorithm. Then more people, and leave comments. That's good for the algorithm. The more people then watch the video. But thank you to both of you, and well done. You should be very proud of what you've done.